It was a quiet weekend. Everyone had gathered for a family meal, and the evening was unfolding calmly. Suddenly, my sister Emily slid a folded piece of paper across the table toward me, wearing the satisfied smile of someone performing charity. "Linda," she said, "you're raising Lucas on your own. It's tough, but this might give you some financial support." The paper was an application for a cleaning position at her company. She told me the hours were flexible and added that no qualifications or experience were required. Beneath her words, however, was a subtle, unmistakable message. "You're only good enough for this." My son, Lucas, sat beside me, his face turning red with embarrassment. Around the table, relatives watched his mother's cousin belittle me. Emily's so-called helpful gesture was anything but. It was openly demeaning. Lucas didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. What Emily didn't know was a truth she had never investigated in her relentless years-long competition to prove herself superior to me. The building where her company's office was located was just a small piece of the commercial properties I had quietly built over the years. On top of that, the lease renewal document for that building sat on my desk, about to become the most important paper of the evening. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. If you mention where you're watching from in the comments, I'd be thrilled. Yes, my relationship with Emily had been difficult since childhood. She was 3 years older and had always believed that age gave her a permanent advantage. As we grew, she acted as though she had the right to judge me in every aspect of my life: my studies, friendships, relationships, and career. Every mistake I made was proof of my weakness and her own superiority. Whenever I achieved something, Emily would dismiss it as luck or a fleeting moment. When I married Daniel, she announced in front of everyone that the marriage would last at best a year or two. Years later, when Daniel tragically died in a car accident, she presented her earlier words as if they were a deep act of foresight. I always knew that things that seemed so perfect wouldn't last. After I was left alone at 31, I endured years of her well-intentioned interventions. She offered jobs far beneath my education and experience, tried to teach me how to be a mother despite her own family struggles, and her financial advice always circled back to the same point. I was no longer as capable as I once was, and I should accept it. This job application was her latest and most blatant move. I looked at the paper she pushed toward me. At the top was written, Northbridge Facilities Group. That was Emily's company. She worked in a regular HR position and had held it for years, yet she spoke of the company as if she made every decision herself. She had no idea who owned that building, not Northbridge Facilities Group. They were merely tenants. But the office tower, a 15-story skyscraper in the heart of the city's business district, was only one part of the real estate portfolio I had built over the years. I had purchased it through a company 3 years ago, a calculated and strategic move. Emily's company had never even bothered to check who owned it. The irony of life could not have been sweeter. "A cleaning job?" I said calmly. "It's honest work. There's nothing shameful about it." Emily didn't see it that way. "The pay isn't bad. There are perks too. It could be good for Lucas. I know it's tough for you right now," she said. "Is it?" I replied. "You never talk about your work. You're still driving that old car, living in that little house," she added, gesturing vaguely. "It seems like things are tight." Under the table, Lucas grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly. He knew the truth. He had stayed silent to protect himself from moments like this, yet the shame on his face couldn't be hidden. His aunt was publicly belittling his mother. "Thanks for your input," I said, folding the paper. "I'll give this to my assistant." Emily laughed. "Your assistant? Since when do you have an assistant?" "Since my real estate ventures grew," I said, holding her gaze, "including managing the building where Northbridge Facilities Group leases the 4th and 5th floors." The table fell silent. My words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and undeniable. Emily's forced smile froze. My parents exchanged confused glances, trying to grasp what had just happened. My brother-in-law, who had been smirking moments ago, quietly set his fork down. "What are you talking about, Linda?" Emily finally asked. "Hawthorne Commercial Group," I said. "It's my company. We own that building downtown, the very one you go to every day." "But our lease isn't renewed until next month. Those documents," she began, trailing off. "Those documents are currently on my desk," I said. "That can't be—" "The building's owner is an investment company, Hawthorne Commercial Group LLC," she replied. "Exactly, and I am the sole owner of that company." I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and slid it across to her. "Here, these are the new lease terms. See this space? That's where the landlord signs." "That signature," I said calmly, "is mine." Emily stared at the screen. She scrolled through the document, rereading the lines. Her expression shifted. First disbelief, then confusion, then fear she could no longer hide. This isn't possible," she whispered. "But you work from home. You do something with computers." "I manage a commercial real estate portfolio worth roughly $47 million from home," I said. 8 buildings, 35 tenants, and a 5-person team. I retrieved my phone. "What you call something with computers is the property management software I developed, now licensed to other real estate firms," I added. Years of silent observation finally broke, and my father spoke. "Emily, I think you should stay quiet," he said firmly. "Why? She's clearly lying," Emily shot back. "She's not lying," my father said decisively. "I've known about her work for 3 years. She wanted it private, but I've seen the tax documents, inspected the properties. Your sister is one of the most successful real estate owners in this city." Silence followed. Emily's husband buried his head in his hands, calculating rapidly. His expression shifted from arrogance to stunned disbelief. My mother looked at me as though I had just revealed I was a secret astronaut. Relatives around the table whispered to one another, trying to process the revelation. Lucas sat up straighter beside me. His shame had vanished, replaced by a mixture of pride and relief. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" my mother finally asked. "I just wanted to see how people behave when they think I have nothing," I said. "To understand who genuinely cares and who offers help just to feel superior." I looked at Emily. "For 8 years, you tried to prove I was a failure. 8 years of the job applications you sent, the financial advice you gave, the comments about how hard it is to raise Lucas alone. Last year, on Thanksgiving, you brought leftovers pretending I needed them. You offered to buy Marcus's school supplies, calling it a little help." "I was just trying to help," Emily said, "but you always tried to make me feel inferior. It was important for you to see me struggle, because my success got in the way of your sense of self-worth," I said. I gestured at the job application on the table. "A cleaning job. You handed this to me in front of my son, in front of the whole family, so everyone would see you as the kind, helpful sister." "But that's not—" "It is. We both know it." The dinner became tense. Emily scrambled for excuses. She didn't know. She was only trying to help. Or maybe I should have told her the truth so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. But none of it was convincing. "In reality, the one who should feel embarrassed is you," I said. "Instead of asking about my life, you assumed I was failing. Instead of talking to me about my situation, you offered me a cleaning job. You alone are responsible for your shame. You could have revealed everything any time," she murmured. "No," I said. "I wanted to see if my sister could still treat me with respect even when she thought I had nothing." I got my answer. For the first time, Lucas spoke. "Aunt Emily, you made Mom feel bad for years. You made me feel bad, too. You thought we were in a tough spot, that we needed help, but we don't. Mom has worked hard, and you just resented it." Emily's face faltered. The result she had expected was not an apology from a 12-year-old. "I'm sorry," she said, her words awkward in her mouth. "I didn't realize." "You didn't want to realize. That's a different matter," I replied. I pulled a second document from my bag. "This is the lease renewal for Northbridge Facilities Group," I said, placing it on the table. Under the current terms, the rent is $32 per square foot, even though the market rate is $41. I've been giving them a discount for years because after the pandemic, I didn't want to raise rents. Emily's husband leaned forward. This is a huge discount, about $180,000 annually. Plus, the lease is month to month until the new terms are signed, and you can cancel any time. Are you really going to do it? He asked. No, I said calmly. The main difference between you and me is that I don't use what I own to squeeze or punish anyone. I slid the document toward him. But I want you to know this. Every morning when you walk into that office, you'll realize that the rent you pay is my decision. Part of your salary exists because I don't demand a single penny more from your company than necessary. That's unfair, he muttered. Just as it wasn't fair for your wife to humiliate my son by handing me a cleaning job application in front of the whole family, I replied. But that is the reality. The first part of the drive home was silent. Lucas stared out the window, replaying everything he had just witnessed in his mind. After a while, he spoke. Mom, why did you keep this a secret for so long? To protect you, I said. I didn't want you growing up thinking that a person's worth is measured by money. I didn't want you comparing yourself to cousins' toys, clothes, vacations. But Aunt Emily treated us badly. I know, and for that, I apologize. I had hoped that one day, simply because we were family, things would change. I was wrong. Are we really rich? We live with security and trust. Rich means different things to different people, but here's what I can tell you for sure. We never have to worry about what we'll eat tomorrow, and we have a freedom of choice most people don't. Then why are we still in the same house? Why are we driving the same car? Because I loved your father, and that house is where our family began, because the car still works, and replacing it would be wasteful, because money is not the goal, it's just a tool. I reached out and squeezed his hand firmly. I never wanted money or wealth to make you feel superior to anyone else, and tonight you saw what happens when people think that way. Aunt Emily measures her worth by putting others down. That is a very sad way to live. The tension between Emily and me lasted for several months. She issued a formal apology, stilted, rehearsed, probably on her husband's advice. I accepted it quietly but drew new boundaries. No more unsolicited advice, no more comments about my circumstances, no behavior that would turn Lucas into a charity case. Family dynamics had shifted permanently. Relatives who had witnessed that dinner now treated me differently, some with newfound respect, some still tense, and some openly driven by personal interest. I took note of every reaction and adjusted my relationships accordingly. My bond with my father grew stronger. He had kept my secret for years and never used it against me. Out of respect for my wishes, he had remained silent even while Emily attacked me. Now I could better understand his perspective. I wanted to tell you this, my father admitted quietly. Every time she handed you those job applications or said those words, but you said nothing. You had to see her real intentions for yourself. Now I understand, I replied. Emily still works in a building I own. An unusual balance has formed between us, cold but civil, polite but distant. The job application incident never came up again. She no longer gives me career advice. She makes no comments about my car or my home. The lease has been renewed on fair terms. I never use money to punish anyone, but Emily knows every day she enters that building that her assumption about my failure is completely wrong. Lucas is now 15 and beginning to understand the more complex sides of life. He asks questions about money, investments, and finances, but he already understands that a person's worth is not measured by possessions alone. He takes an interest in real estate, watching how I manage my portfolio, from lease agreements to employee responsibilities, trying to grasp every detail. Our conversations are never just about facts. He always thinks about logic, values, and fairness. I want to work like you, he said recently, his eyes serious. "But I don't want to be like Aunt Emily. I don't want to feel better about myself because of someone else's failure." "That's the most important lesson you can learn in life," I told him. "Success built by putting others down has no value. True strength and respect come from loyalty and doing what is right." Lucas nodded, as if understanding the weight of my words. He had grasped an understanding Emily never could. From his eyes, I saw that he now understood not just the value of work and money, but also the principles of humanity and justice. My sister had handed me a cleaning job application, but I showed her that real support, real care, and attention are found in very different places. And some lessons are only learned when the truth is revealed. Sometimes, to see who a person really is, all the masks have to fall.